My parents always favored my sister and handed her control of our family construction company. She drained money, lied to clients, and nearly ruined us. I documented everything, took legal control, sold the company to a competitor, paid everyone off, bought my parents a lake house, and walked away rich and free while she was left with nothing but a fake consulting Instagram. I grew up on job sites. The smell of cut lumber and diesel is what I think of when people say home. Our family business was a small construction and contracting company my dad started when I was 5. We did framing, small commercial build-outs, kitchens, decks, the occasional full house if the money and schedule made sense. Dad ran the bids and the field when I was a kid. Mom handled books at the kitchen table with a calculator and a coffee mug that said boss. By the time I was old enough to hold a nail gun without shooting my foot, I was on a crew every summer. My sister, Olivia, didn't like job sites. She liked air conditioning and meetings and words like brand and elevate. She could sell anything. Teachers loved her. Neighbors loved her. My parents worshipped her. If she sneezed, Mom would ask if she wanted lemon tea with honey and extra honey. If I came home with a bloody knuckle from a stubborn bolt, I got, "You should be more careful," and a paper towel. I didn't hate her. She's my sister. But the pattern was always there. She got the special plate. I got the lecture. She got dream big. I got be realistic. She went to college and studied communications. I did a 2-year program for construction management and started pulling permits and managing subs. By 26, I had my contractor license, my OSHA stuff, and a list of homeowners who texted me directly when their deck stairs creaked. When Dad slowed down, he asked me to step up in the field. I did. When Mom said we needed to professionalize, Olivia came home to help run the office. That was the beginning of my education in what help can mean. At first, it was fine. Olivia updated the logo. She made a clean website that actually had our projects on it. She got us on Google Maps and Yelp. She started an Instagram with before and afters. Leads went up. I told her nice job, and I meant it. I like full calendars. I like crews that don't have to worry about next month. For a while, it felt like we were a real team. Then the money started acting weird. On paper, revenue went up. In the bank, cash felt thin. Subs got paid slower. The lumberyard called me directly and said, "You guys good?" Because our monthly bill sat unpaid a week longer than usual. I walked into Mom's office one afternoon and saw Olivia at the computer with a spreadsheet that had more red numbers than I like. Mom said, "We're investing back into the brand," and smiled the way people smile when they're holding in heartburn. Olivia started ideas. She wanted new trucks. She wanted a nicer storefront. She wanted Crane Design Studio inside our office with candles and a rug, and a water cooler that looked like it was made by Apple. "Clients spend when they feel elevated," she said. Dad nodded like she'd invented walls. I asked, "Can we afford this?" She said, "You're being negative." Mom said, "She knows what she's doing." Dad said nothing because daughters can walk on water in his head, and sons should swim harder. Then I found the first real problem. A vendor named OC Consulting LLC billed us $6,800 for brand ambassadorship. I asked our bookkeeper, Liz, "Who's OC Consulting?" She said, "That's Olivia's marketing partner." I Googled. The registered agent address was a mailbox store. The manager was Olivia. She was billing our own company from her own LLC and calling it growth. The invoices had words like activation and influencer seeding. Meanwhile, the drywall guy was texting me at 10 p.m. asking when he was getting paid. I brought the invoice to Mom. "She's billing us from her own company," I said. Mom didn't look surprised. "She's adding value. You can't do what she does." "I also don't bill us twice to do it," I said. "We already pay her a salary." Mom sighed. "Don't make trouble." In our family, "don't make trouble" means let Olivia have her way. I didn't blow up. I'm good at 2 things: building and paperwork. I started keeping clean records, job costing, change orders, hours, mileage, who approved what. I set up a separate bank feed into a read-only spreadsheet with categories for every expense over $500. I convinced Dad to let me be the qualifying party on our license. my number, my stamp, because he said, "You're the one in the field anyway." I updated our insurance and bonding contacts with my name too. It looked like I was just being organized. It was the best thing I did. Olivia turned up the volume. She promised intro discounts to clients without telling me, then yelled when I refused to add work that wasn't in the contract. She hired a junior designer who took selfies in demo zones and forgot to order tile. She started routing all estimates through herself and upgrading them with fancy finishes that blew budgets, and then told me to make it work. When I said we needed deposits before ordering, she called me rigid. Dad called me inflexible. Mom said, "Clients will pay. Trust your sister." The clients did pay, some of them, eventually. But not always, and not before subs started calling me more than they called their own children. Then came the Lake Point build, a full gut of a mid-century place with a second-story addition. Big job. Good money if you do it right. We bid it clean. I built a schedule that could make a Swiss person cry happy tears. The owner was a lawyer. Predictable, detailed, on time with wires if you delivered milestones. I loved him immediately. Olivia decided this was her moment to elevate. She promised custom cabinetry from a boutique vendor that doesn't return calls before noon. She promised marble the client didn't ask for. She promised we'd handle the permit stress. That's my job. And then forwarded me emails with 7 exclamation marks like, "Hey bro, any update?" They are asking. She started CCing Dad on everything and adding notes like, "Per my conversation, approved," even when the conversation was her talking to a mirror. The Lake Point draw schedule said 15% deposit, 20% at framing complete, 20% at rough-in complete, 20% at drywall complete, 15% at finish, 10% at punch list. Simple. I kept it on my wall. Olivia asked the client for an extra 10% for materials stress and told me she'd smoothed it. He sent it. She put it in the same account she paid OC Consulting from. I only saw it because Liz printed a cash flow report and the line jumped like a fish. I asked Olivia, "Why did you take an extra 10% without a change order?" She said, "Because I'm the one who had to sweet-talk him." "You sweet-talked him into giving us money that isn't ours yet," I said. "That's how contractors end up on the news." "You're dramatic," she said, and walked away because walking away has always been her favorite argument. Lake Point felt tight but doable until 2 things happened back to back. 1, our surety bond agent called to say our bond capacity was under review due to recent late pay trends. That means vendors complained. 2, Olivia invested in a glossy showroom sign and a launch party with charcuterie and sparkling water while my crew waited on a window order that hadn't been paid. I asked for the purchase order. She said, "It's handled." The yard called me. "It's not handled." I had a quiet night in the office with the copier and made binders. One had contracts, one had bank statements, one had internal emails. One had a list of every vendor past due, how many days, and whether Olivia's name was on the approval. Then, because I'm my father's son, I went back to work and made sure Lake Point's framing passed inspection the next morning. 2 days later, Dad and Mom called a family meeting. Olivia was there, of course, with a PowerPoint. She proposed making herself CEO and moving me to Field Operations Director. That means stop talking in meetings. Her points: no one believes in the brand like I do. Alex is stressed. Clients want a single visionary. She had slides with selfies with clients. She had a slide that said, 2026, Vision Crane Construction Design Group. I had a stack of subcontractors on my phone waiting for checks. Dad said, "This is reasonable." Mom said, "This is overdue." I said, "This is theft in a dress." Olivia smiled. "That's sexist." "It's math," I said, and slid my binders across the table. I don't enjoy being dramatic. I enjoy being specific. I walked them through Lake Point's extra draw. I walked them through OC Consulting invoices to herself. I showed the lumberyard late fee. I showed the bond agent's email. I showed an Instagram of the launch party next to a screenshot of a window order marked "On hold pending payment." I showed a copy of our contractor license with my name as qualifier. I showed the surety bond with my name. I showed the insurance policy with me as additional named insured. I showed a letter I drafted to our bank about temporary changes to signing authority pending internal audit that required 2 signatures on any transfer, mine and Mom's or Dad's. Dad's face went red. Not at Olivia, at me. You went behind our backs. I went under your roof and fixed the leaks, I said. We can do this clean, or we can do it loud. Mom cried. Olivia said, You're jealous. She said it like a magic spell. I didn't yell. I said, If you make yourself CEO, I resign as qualifier. That means the license is invalid until you hire a new qualifier and the state reapproves. That can take weeks or months. No license, no permits, no work. Lake Point will sue. The subs will file liens. The bank will get nervous. The surety will probably pull the bond. And then there is no company to be CEO of. Or we can stop pretending, untangle this cleanly, finish our jobs, and have a serious talk about what this company actually is. Dad stood up like he was going to leave. I said, Sit down. I never say that to my father. He sat because something in his head finally heard the tone I use with inspectors when they try to tag a job for something that's actually code compliant. We ended that meeting with one thing: a temporary freeze on non-operational spending and a promise to finish Lake Point without more brand investments. Olivia called me a dictator. I went back to work. Lake Point got done because my crew is made of men and women who can build a straight wall in a hurricane, and because the client paid on time. We passed every inspection. The fireplace turned out beautiful. The lawyer shook my hand and said, If you ever leave this company, call me. I have friends with projects. I smiled and filed that sentence under someday. Olivia didn't like temporary anything. 2 weeks later, she tried to move $25,000 from operating to marketing initiatives for a new showroom build-out. The bank wouldn't let the transfer go without my cosign. She stormed into the yard and yelled, Why are you blocking growth? In front of my framers. My framers stared at her like she was weather. That afternoon, I called our bank officer. We need to talk covenant breaches and collateral, I said. He sighed. I was wondering when you'd call. We met the next morning. I brought my binders. He brought a file I didn't know he had, a missed loan covenant from last quarter because our debt service coverage dipped, a note about late vendor complaints, and a line that said, Client considering calling line due to mismanagement. I said, Not mismanagement. One person siphoning and promising. He said, Can you fix it? I said, Yes, by selling. He blinked. Selling the spec house? No, I said, selling the company. He didn't say no. He said carefully, To who? There's a competitor in town, Ferguson Sons, who do bigger commercial work and always chase our subs. They tried to buy us once when Dad had a flu and mumbled in church about retirement. At the time, Dad yelled that we're not for sale. I called their owner. Coffee? I said. He said, Finally. We met in a diner that still thinks cigarettes are coming back. I brought one binder. He brought a legal pad. I laid out the truth. Revenue up. Cash messy. License and bond in my name. Parents majority but not majority on operational capacity. Sister, a grenade with Instagram. He asked the question that mattered. What do you want? I want to finish our current jobs, pay our subs and vendors in full, keep the crews employed if they want to jump, and walk away with enough for my parents to retire without panic. I want my sister nowhere near any of it. I want out. He nodded and said, Asset purchase, not stock. We take your name off everything and you hand me the keys. Exactly, I said. You buy equipment, vehicles, client list, phone number, maybe the yard lease if you want it. You don't buy our debt. You don't buy our corporate shell with Olivia's mess. You don't buy OC Consulting invoices. I'll assign crews who want to join. You pay fair market. I help transition for 60 days as a consultant. After that, I'm gone. He said, What about your parents? I'll get them there, I said, and surprised myself by believing it. We got a lawyer involved. We got a valuation. It wasn't a wow number. It was a we don't go broke and no one sues number. It was enough for Mom and Dad to buy a small house near a lake and sit on a porch. It was enough for me to have a cushion and time to decide whether I ever want to see a schedule of values again. It wasn't enough for Olivia to get a showroom with candles. I smiled about that part in the shower where no one could judge me. Closing this kind of thing quietly with family is like building cabinets in a tornado. I went step by step. First, I finished or handed off every job except 2 small bath remodels we could sub to a friend. I didn't book anything new. When leads called, I said, "We're scheduling for next year," and sent them to 3 contractors I trust, no fires. Second, I met with our surety and the bond underwriter. "We're selling assets," I said. "No defaults, every sub paid, no claims." Underwriters love the word no. He said, "If you pull this off, you'll be my favorite client this year." Third, I sat my parents down at the kitchen table with no PowerPoint, just simple math and a picture of a house by a small lake I knew Mom had saved on Zillow. "Here's the number Ferguson will pay," I said. "Here's what we owe vendors. Here's what we owe the bank. Here's what's left. Here's what happens if we don't do it. The bank pulls the line, the surety reduces capacity, we limp, the jobs get ugly, we run out of cash, and then we sell for less while being sued. Here's what happens if we do it. We pay everyone, no lawsuits, you retire. You sit on that porch, Dad fishes, Mom bakes, I give the crews a place to land, and Olivia can start a podcast." Mom cried. Dad rubbed his jaw the way he does when a beam doesn't fit and he knows he measured right. "What about tradition?" he asked. "This is our name." "Your name is yours with or without a truck," I said. "You built something. We kept it alive. It doesn't have to own your body until it breaks." Mom looked at Dad. Dad looked at Mom. They both looked at Olivia, who was sitting stiff like a cat hearing a thunderstorm. Olivia said, "You're stealing my life." "You stole from the company," I said. "I'm selling my sleep." Mom said, "Olivia, baby, we can't keep doing this." It was the first time she said "we" and meant me. Olivia went quiet in that dangerous way she has. "What do I get?" "Your salary until closing," I said, "and a recommendation letter for a marketing job that doesn't involve managing money. And your own LLC free to do whatever it wants without our checkbook." She looked like she'd swallowed a nail. She said, "I'll sue." Dad said, "For what? Being your brother?" And I almost hugged him. The asset purchase agreement was 30 pages. The consulting agreement that kept me on for 60 days was 5. The non-disparagement clause was 1 paragraph that Olivia will violate on Instagram in about 6 months when she posts a vague quote about betrayal. The important lines were the simplest. Ferguson buys equipment, vehicles, in-progress materials, client phone number, and hires any crew who wants to come. We pay every vendor before closing. Bankline gets paid at closing. The company corporation with its debts and whatever Bulls invoices Olivia wrote to herself stays with my parents. It becomes a shell with no work, no assets, and no reason to exist except to file a final tax return. That part felt mean. It was necessary. I'm not going to leave someone a loaded gun. The week before closing, Olivia tried one last stunt. She created an Instagram post announcing Crane Construction Design Group is stepping into a bold new chapter, with a photo of herself in front of a rented showroom space. I called the landlord. He said, "She gave me your company's EIN for the lease." I said, "Do not sign anything. We are an asset sale. That company is not taking on new obligations." He said, "Oh," and hung up. I called our lawyer. He sent the landlord a letter with more teeth than my toolbox. The lease died in a day. Olivia posted a story about haters. I ignored it like earplugs. Closing day was weird. I signed papers with a pen that said Ferguson. Mom signed, Dad signed. Olivia refused to come. The bank officer shook my hand hard. The surety guy bought us coffee and said, "I wish every contractor finished this clean." I walked through to the yard with the new foreman from Ferguson and pointed at which skid steer has a bad sensor sometimes and which saw to watch because it gets hungry and eats fingers if you don't respect it. My crew stood in a line and shook my hand like men and women who've seen me eat cold pizza at 6 a.m. and fight an inspector at 2 p.m. and still show up for a last piece of trim at 7 p.m. Some went with Ferguson. Some went to other shops I'd lined up. Nobody got stiffed. That mattered to me more than any number on a check. When the wire hit and the bank line cleared and the vendor statements showed zero, I sat in my truck and cried like a cinder block. Not because I was sad, because months of clenching finally let go. I bought my parents a small, clean house by a lake from the proceeds and put it in their names. I told them the truth. It's yours. If Olivia wants to move home, that's between you and your sanity. Dad taught himself how to sit still. Mom bakes pie like she's been training for it. They still think Olivia will find herself. Maybe she will. Not my problem. I put a portion of the remainder into a boring index fund. I took a month off, I slept past 5, I drank coffee without a phone in my hand. I fixed the squeaky hinge on my closet door that had squeaked for 2 years because other doors squeak louder. I went to a minor league baseball game on a Tuesday and didn't feel like I was skipping something important. I answered my phone when Lake Point's lawyer friend called to ask if I'd like to manage his friend's addition as a private project. I said, "Not yet. Maybe later." Olivia sent me a text 4 words long. "You ruined my future." I typed 3, deleted them, and sent none. What I wanted to say was simple. You did. What I actually did was block her number for a month and then unblock because I'm not 12. 6 months later, I got coffee with the Ferguson owner. He said the crews we sent over were the best he's hired in a decade. He said we left a list of punch items at closing that actually helped, and no one does that. He offered me a job overseeing special projects at a ridiculous salary. I said no. Not because I'm above it, because I'm not ready to put my boots back on for someone else's schedule. I told him I'd call him when my hands miss splinters more than they like coffee cups. Mom and Dad still talk to Olivia. They love her. I do too, just not in a way that includes bank accounts. She started a consulting thing, of course. She posted photos in front of other people's projects with captions like, "So proud of my clients." She name drops our old company like it owes her child support. When people ask me what happened, I say, "We did good work, then we sold." I don't owe anyone a play-by-play. The subs know the real story. The vendors know. They got paid. The lawyer knows. He sends me recipes sometimes now because we bonded over tile grout and slow cookers. You can call this revenge if you want. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like closing a door gently and locking it softly so the wind doesn't slam it at 3 a.m. It felt like lifting weight off a beam before it cracks. It felt like choosing to be a man who sleeps. If you're in a family business and you recognize any of this, here's what I learned. Put your name on the things that actually make the work legal. License, bond, insurance, if you're the one doing the work. Document everything clean. Pay your subs first. Don't fight in front of crews. Pick a table and bring binders. Make friends with the bank and the surety. Don't threaten, explain. Offer a clean exit before everything turns to fire. And when it's time to go, go all the way. Sell the saws if you have to. Buy your folks a porch. Sit on it sometimes, even if you think sitting is for other people. I still wake up some mornings and reach for a job log that isn't there. Then I make coffee and watch the light move across my kitchen and realize I don't have to climb a ladder in the rain today. I miss the cruise. I miss the stupid jokes at 6:15 a.m. about whose truck is louder. I don't miss getting CC'd on emails where my sister says, "Per my convo approved," about money that isn't hers. Maybe I'll build again. Maybe I'll flip a house quietly with 2 good people and a tile saw that doesn't kill thumbs. Maybe I'll just be the guy neighbors call when their gate sticks. For now, I like boring. I like honest. I like that Lake Point sent me a photo of their Christmas tree in the new living room with a note that said, "Still doesn't squeak." TLDR. My parents always favored my sister, Olivia. When she came home to help run our family construction company, she billed us through her own LLC, overspent on brand, took extra client draws, and starved the jobs. I kept clean records, made myself the qualifier on the license, got my name on the bond and insurance, froze non-operational spending, and finished our jobs. Then I lined up an asset sale to a competitor. They bought the equipment, number, and hired our crews. We paid every vendor and cleared the bank line. My parents retired to a lake house. I walked away with the upper hand and my peace. Olivia got nothing but a consulting Instagram